2012, right?
Yeah, it's a while ago. So for those of, so there's some people who have seen the film currently, right? And they're coming in to listen to the Q&A. Yeah, I mean, it's, I got around to make the film because it was my friend Adam Gollner who wrote the book that the film is based on. And when I read the book, I was just inspired. I was inspired by this notion of biophilia, biophilia is the love of all things natural and all things life, made from, you know, of life. And to me, it was fascinating to think of the that symbiotic relationship that we have with fruit. And to me, it was kind of a metaphor for a new way of thinking of thinking of our relationship with nature. And so, and part of it, with the fun part for me, was that I got to eat a lot of fruit, and all sorts of fruit that I've never encountered before, but a fruit that I was familiar with, but then learned a lot more about. And it was a fascinating experience for me. And the other thing was, and now as we are in the pandemic, and I'm in Toronto here, where we're in a stage 2 lockdown, I yearn for the opportunity to travel again, and so it's interesting to reflect back on a time when we were able to do that without any sense of you know, concern.
Okay, so I'm curious about the fruits that you said never knew before. What is it? I mean, it's better be Asian fruit.
I kind of, you know, you know, at the time when I started developing the film and researching the film, we here in Toronto and in Montreal, where I was living at the time, we had a lot of access to exotic fruits, what you call exotic fruit markets and stores. But one country's exotic fruit is another country's local fruit, right? So it's not really. I mean, I know when I was in Bali, it was weird to find apples, you know, you know, in the market, because I was like, why would you want an apple when you can have this beautiful, you know, snake fruit or, you know, something like this. So yeah. Yeah, so she likes, oh, so it's interesting. Like she just was reminding, my daughter was just whispering to me that we just recently went apple picking in Toronto, in Ontario. And this is something that everyone does. It's a kind of a tradition, I think, for a lot of families in the fall, in October,
Right.
September, October, is to go to pick apples from the orchards. And they're delicious. I think something that's so special is that the best fruit is the one that's fresh picked from the tree or from the bush or wherever you may get it. So yeah, I encountered a lot of fruit. I think to me what was most, oh, hold on a sec. The most exciting for me was fruits like the Brazilian fruit called jaboticaba. The jaboticaba, which is Ken Love in the documentary describes it as it looks like alien eyeballs, and they literally grow on the bark of the tree. So you just see a tree with these giant round, they look like Concord grapes, and they just cover a beautiful tree, and you just pick it off, and the flavor of them is has a kind of a peppery flavor to it, but very pop of juice, and what's amazing is I was so addicted to them that I would fill a bag full of them. And this was in Hawaii where we were filming. And I would just eat it all day long. And then, you know what happened? I developed a rash. I developed a rash that looked like jaboticaba was growing on my arm. It was like dots all over my arm. It was wild. I think something that we learn in Chinese, they say about the lychee fruit, that you can't overeat the lychee fruit. If you eat too much, you get a hot belly. So, which is another fruit that I love. So I have to be very careful when it comes to indulging in too much delicious fruit
or exotic fruits.
I've been really, lately. And then the irony now is that it's Halloween here, and my daughter is obsessed with these cheap sugar candies. And it's just little does she know that the actual fruit themselves, the original fruits, are just so much more delicious and giving in flavor, and cheap candy does not do it. Cheap candy does not do it. Anyway, yeah.
Okay, so that's a very interesting experience. Maybe next year you can eat it before Halloween, so you can more observe the character.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so
I think just come to think of it, one of my most how do I say it without sounding too crazy? I think one of the most ecstatic experience that I had was I think we were in Borneo, and there was a fresh fallen durian, and we picked it and we just opened it up and we started eating that durian, and it was it's indescribable what a fresh durian tastes like. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't compare it to something that you buy at the supermarket that's been shipped overseas into Canada and it's been frozen, and then it's just not the same. That was the most human, like animalistic experience I had of just sort of like, just going into the fruit. And I think there's something quite primal and just, I don't know, instinctual about that process of eating something right off the tree. And it's rare. I don't think everyone gets that opportunity,
Well, I'm not that lucky yet, but hopefully soon.
Okay.
As Indonesian, as Indonesian, I'm pretty envy with the experience. So I hope I can have that.
Yeah.
So, how long actually the process of taking the film from the very beginning until the result?
I think for me, and even Fruit Hunters, that was about a 3-year process.
Oh.
And I think that's an average for a film, for a documentary feature film.
Mm-hmm.
this one in particular, yeah, it was 3 years. There was a weird part of this movie, which was the idea that I wanted to introduce these, these recreation, so-called recreation or fictional elements into the film, like the historic retellings of past experiences with fruit. And something I wanted to do was make these things very organic in like, so the theory was we keep it very organic. We don't, we're not using CGI or things like this. It was all handmade. So it was a very laborious process, especially some of the animation that we did in the film. The story of the lychee fruit, for example, was the animated sequence was beautifully done by the animator Fred Cassia, and handmade. There was some stop motion that was done with a mango growing on a tree, and that was made by another animator, Brandon Blumart, and it just took him forever. I remember going to visit him in the studio, and it was just shot by shot, and for me it was very satisfying, because this was about the handmade, about the organic approach to, and trying to connect it to this idea of fruit and seed, from seed to fruit. And the other thing we did, which was quite intensive, was in the studio, we built these model sets. So scaled model sets. So the story of the Bing cherry, for example, was actually scaled down to the size of a table, and we had the special camera that the National Film Board of Canada owned. That must have been from the 1960s. And it was still the sort of camera that is used to film stop motion, so that it looks in scale, to reality. Yeah. And so we had the special camera, and we were filming, that shot into the San Francisco late 19th century. And that was all done with handmade sets, which was, again, another. And so what I realized when I think about it was, part of the idea of these so-called fruit hunters was their obsession with fruit, their obsession to find and taste and collect and preserve these species, and as I was making this film, I felt like I was becoming an obsessed, not only fruit hunter, but also obsessed with the process of making the film. Hence these decisions to tell my team that I wanted everything to be handmade, that we would spend a long time working on the bits and pieces of this movie, that there would be a relationship to the theme of the movie itself.
Okay, Yunjang, thank you very much for your sharing. It's quite a surprise for me, because I thought it's like a very smooth, maybe few months. It's 3 years actually. And yes, it is very, it's very enjoyable to see everything lay out in front of you. And well, I'm pretty envious with the characters inside the film.
Oh, great. Actually, one thing I would comment on is that one of the challenges I had was the idea of adapting a movie out of source material from a book. So Adam Gollner, the author, and I had a lot of conversation about this, and he was very supportive of the idea of stepping away from the book, just using the book as a source material, and then adapting the story based on what is necessary for the movie, so that in fact they kind of stand alone. Some of the inspiration from the book were some characters like Richard Campbell in Miami, and Nourice Ledesma, who are only nominally. I don't even think Nourice Ledesma is mentioned in the book itself, because I don't think she was working at the Fairchild at the time, but Dr. Campbell was, but he's just like one sentence in the book. But then when I did my research and I went to visit, all these locations, part of it was like, a film is driven by good characters, and if you don't have characters, you don't have a film. So I discovered that Richard Campbell was actually quite interesting, and I blew him up into a bigger character. And then he had a great story, the story of preserving a rare Bornean mango, which now I forget the name of.
It's okay.
But, what is it called?
I don't remember anyway too.
The wani.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God, that's the star of our talk actually right now.
Oh wow! Okay, fantastic. So there was this, and then then finding stories like the Isabella Dalla Ragione from Italy and her great her great mission to use Renaissance paintings to source rare fruit in her region in Umbria. I mean, that's a great story to me, and she was a wonderful character,
Okay.
and I had a great time just spending time there in Italy.
Okay, so let's go to Celina. Oh my God, Celina, we have so small time left. So maybe a brief about map of Philippines before we go on with our fruits.
Yeah, actually, the fruit hunter hits on a lot of the themes on why we do the work that we do. So we work in different countries around the world to help look at, to find, to hunt those heirloom species, and to also support farmers, the farmers that grow our food, especially now during the pandemic, where the folks who grow our food, cook it and serve it, we're having a whole new discussion on how we can regenerate different economies around food production and tourism even. And especially a place like Bali, for example, where there's so many beautiful species that are historical to Indonesia, yet are forgotten or hidden. So we're using those species to help support farming communities, to connect them to premium ethical buyers, and to help provide livable wages. So it's helping regenerate the kind of culinary and heritage tourism that we'd like to see regenerated in many countries like Indonesia around the world. And we're actually giving a talk. So all the regions in the world, it's actually Geography Awareness Week on the week of November 15th. So across the world's global regions, Asia, Pacific, Africa, Middle East, North Africa, and other Latin America as well, and Canada, we are having these conversations together of good people, nice people doing good work, and how we can help leverage regenerating and looking back at our history to look for these hidden objects and hidden stories in our cultures, and to use that to regenerate local economies. And especially in farming as well, 40% of Indonesia's farmers are women in smallholder farms. And so looking that in a different way and seeing an economic opportunity in bringing back those heritage species to then provide much more livable wages, not just in agriculture, but in technology, in tourism, in the creative industries, from the artisans and beautiful weavers, all the way through to graphic designers and filmmakers. So it's recreating these entire industries to really provide a new future of work that goes beyond just GDP, but really on dignity and quality of life.
Okay, so we talked earlier about your dreams about having I could say a mango plantation in Bali with various type of mangoes. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Well, as the movie references, there's 600 species of mangoes, and actually at the Fairchild Botanical Gardens, every July during mango season there, they bring in 50 different varieties. So we'd like the same concept applied to the local communities. So returning these to places like Indonesia and that have all this beautiful seasonal fruit that taste so much better than things that aren't in season or shipped overseas, and having these in the countries where there is production, to have it as a form of acknowledgement of the culinary history, and also as ways to re-engage different tourism models. So it would be wonderful to have all the species, all the rare mango species that are available in Indonesia. And I know Dr. Feni is speaking, she's the banana lady of Indonesia, of the species of bananas in Indonesia as well. Yeah, there's the blue banana that's so rare in Indonesia. So using those as different points, but the goal is really to honor the history at the same time providing better economic opportunities for Indonesians.
Okay, so we have like less than 1 minute, probably from you and Chang, a little bit last comments or maybe words from you before we close our session.
Just hearing Celina talk about, this amazing work she's doing, and it makes me think about, that's highlighted in my film, some of the fundamental environmental problems we are facing and driven by certain, like I'm thinking about palm plantations, and I'm thinking about these kind of things that are not helping. And so I think about the things that Celina is doing, and how this is re-envisioning a new way that is necessary to support our local ecosystem. And the ecosystem doesn't just include the natural ecosystem, but also our own livelihoods. And I think that makes a lot of sense and so anyway, I'm hoping that the film, for those who've watched it, can inspire you and make you think a little bit about just the simplest notion of thinking about that idea of it actually, when I think about the movie and I think about a piece of like this orange that I have here, and when I tasted it, it's not particularly tasty because I think it's come from a long way.
Yeah.
And then I remember that I went to the apple orchard recently and picked a beautiful Macintosh apple, and it was just indescribable to eat it right off the tree. I mean, that's the thing I want to emphasize, that let's recall. I am hoping the film can help us recall this experience of thinking in the backyard.
Okay, thank you, Yun Chang. And let's go to Celina. Very last word.
Well, we would like to invite everybody to join us during Geography Week. I posted a save the date for the event because we have about 40 speakers online for that event. And it's an opportunity to share regional, like Asian experiences and similarities in our histories, and also opportunities where we can better connect with local partners. And also we're sharing funding opportunities. So that's what everybody's looking for right now, is how do we, from what we've learned about being able to reshape tourism and other job opportunities, how do we actually have the funding to do that? So we'll be sharing those opportunities there. If you want to have a look at my Twitter or my Facebook as well.
Okay, thank you, Yun Chang. Thank you, Celina, for your time right now. It's pretty late here. It's pretty early over there. So that's our conversation for tonight. And I just want to remind you that KEMBALI 20 was made possible with the support of Yayasan Mudra Sawari Saraswati Patron Program and their daughters. The Patron Program was created to seek assistance for the survival of both festivals and foundation. By making a valuable contribution to the Yayasan Patron Program, you will be directly involved in delivering both festivals in due time. Your contribution will guarantee the future of Indonesia's most meaningful cross-culture platform of words, ideas, culture, and the creative arts. So follow Ubud Writers Fest in Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, or just visit our website at ubudwritersfestival.com for more information about the Patron Program. Thank you, and have a very fantastic fruit experience.
Thank you.
Terima kasih, Hafsa.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.